disciples and a huge crowd of people from all around Judea and Jerusalem and the area around Tyre and Sidon joined him there. They came to hear him and to be healed from their diseases. And those bothered by unclean spirits were healed. The whole crowd wanted to touch him because power was going out from him and he was healing everyone. Jesus raised his eyes to his disciples and he said, "Happy are you who are poor, because God's kingdom is yours. Happy are you who hunger now, because you will be satisfied. Happy are you who weep now, because you will laugh. Happy are you when people hate you, reject you, insult you, and condemn your name as evil because of the human one. Rejoice when that happens. Leap for joy because you have a great reward in heaven. Their ancestors did the same things to the prophets. But how terrible for you who are rich, because you have already received your comfort. How terrible for you who have plenty now, because you will be hungry. How terrible for you who laugh now, because you will mourn and weep. How terrible for you when all speak well of you. Their ancestors did the same things to the false prophets." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. A few months ago, my wife Janice and I took a trip north to San Simeon to visit Hearst Castle. What a place. I mean, have you ever visited Hearst Castle? I don't think you could build such a place today unless you perhaps were a Saudi prince. Talk about extreme wealth. Our tour guide stated that it would cost $5 billion to build today Hearst Castle. Now put that into perspective, that is only $70 billion less than Jerry Brown's Crazy Train. So I guess it's a bargain. But to all of us regular folks, that's a lot of money. And for what? It was pouring rain the day we went to Hearst Castle, which added to the interior dampness of the place. Every room had space heaters and humidifiers and smelled like my 8th grade PE locker room. And we all know how teenage boys in puberty, with their aversion to showering, we all know how they smell. But not only that, there was this heaviness to the interior. The heavy wood ceilings, the drapes, the stone walls, and even the beds with their coverlets, duvets, bedspreads, and throw blankets added weightiness to the room. No wonder none of the Hearst family wants to live or spend any time there. The place is a museum to opulence, to a bygone era of the rich and the famous. Woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. And that's from the New Revised Standard Version. And I like the New Revised Standard Version better regarding this particular passage anyway, instead of how the Common English Bible translation goes, which is, how terrible are you who are rich. Woe indicates great sorrow, distress, misery, and wretchedness. Woe is me means I'm suffering some intense misery and misfortune. But woe to you who are rich also carries a sense of warning, as in beware you who are rich. One is being warned of forthcoming misery and forthcoming sadness. And those of us who are not rich, we kind of like this low stuff. We like it when a rich person gets their comeuppance. Don't you kind of snicker derisively when you see one of the Kardashians doing community service, picking up trash along the freeway? Don't you kind of feel a twinge of jealous joy in hearing of Jeff Bezos' marital strife? So, Mr. Big Shot, Mr. Moneybags, how does it feel to be knocked down a notch? Huh? As humans, we always compare ourselves to those above us. We either have more money, or more talent, or more ability, or are smarter. It's as if they don't deserve their higher status. Thus, we like to see them knocked down a notch. I mean, we really do hate excellence. We relate excellence with superiority and smugness. But in truth, we hate excellence because it reminds us of our own non-excellence. Excellence, by definition, means inequality. How do you feel when you see that bumper sticker on someone's car that says, "My child is an honor student at such and such elementary school"? Don't you kind of want to smash your car into the back of it? We tear down those who are better at being or doing something that we as individuals are unable to do to the standards of another. Our desire to tear down, equalize, is always motivated in an upward direction. In other words, no one's jealous of the guy who works for a pest control company who's out there doing community service on the freeway, or the woman who works at the DMV who's getting a divorce. No one cares. We only compare ourselves to those higher up the ladder, and never to those below us. It's all one giant social economic pecking order. We all play the game. For instance, today's gospel says, "Blessed are the poor." Again, blessed has a religious connotation which happy just doesn't have. So it's a preferable translation, in my opinion. Blessed are the poor, and woe to the rich. The finger pointing of some politicians is towards the selfish 1%. First of all, every member of the U.S. Senate is a member of the 1%, as are most athletes, movie stars, and popular musicians. But even they fall into the pecking order of comparison and complainers like the rest of us. Politicians know that psychologically, we only look up above ourselves when we want to compare and never down below ourselves. Since 99% of us, by definition, are below the 1%, the vast majority are going to want to see the 1% get knocked down. But we all turn deaf ears to those who are lower on the economic scale than ourselves, who are pointing the woe to you rich person finger towards us. And it's because none of us thinks that we're rich. And it's because our eyes are focused on those who have more than we have and not on those who have less than we have. And if you don't think this is true, then travel to a third world country. I've been to El Salvador on more than a few occasions, and each time I visited, I went on church-related business. And I will tell you, from the bishop on down to the local churches, down to the church's youth group, down to individuals, they all want money. The Salvadorans looked at me, and others with me, like I look at people who live in Bel Air and drive a Bentley. And if you've ever traveled, you know what I'm saying is true. In Mumbai, India, there's a makeshift slum in the shadow of luxury hotels near Mumbai Airport. The slum is called Anawadi. Anawadi has 335 huts, as in the only thing that separates you from your neighbor's 300 cubic foot hut is a blanket. 3,000 people live in these 335 shanties surrounded by a sewage lake. And out of the 3,000 people who live there, only 6 have permanent jobs. Now, 3,000 divided by 355 is about 9 people per hut. There's not enough room for everyone to sleep in the hut. And that's many to sleep outside on the ground. People make $2 a day scavenging for anything they can sell to recyclers. $2 a day. And all of us in here today, we would be the 1% in Anawadi. The local politicians would be screaming about us. The residents would look at us like we were insensitive, selfish, and rich. Woe to us would be words intended for us. When you think of poverty and poor people, and you think in economic terms only, then poor is a relative term as is rich. One person's ceiling is another person's floor. In truth, Jesus' words today can be directed towards corporate executives, as well as a nurse, or a tech guy, or a teacher, or a car mechanic. We are the rich. We don't see ourselves as rich because each of us don't seem to have that much money. We don't seem to have that much money because we're always comparing ourselves to people who have more money than us rather than those who have less. When it comes to money and wealth, we believe enough is enough, but too much is never enough, especially when it comes to ourselves. And this is true whether you are considered poor or rich. Just because one is poor doesn't necessarily render anybody the moral high ground. Poverty isn't a sign of moral rectitude, and even within suffering is. Seems to me, when we read or hear Luke's version of the Sermon on the Mount, we think in terms of economics. It is certainly true that those who have less resources, less wealth, less money, it's certainly true they're poor. There's no doubt. The news is replete with stories about economic justice, the rich and the poor. However, one would be hard-pressed to hear anything about other types of poverty. For instance, spiritual poverty. The spiritually poor people who are poor in spirit. In other words, those persons who have no spiritual or religious affiliation. They are poor in God or higher power or whatever there is that exists outside the material world. There are 75 million millennials in the United States. According to the Brookings Institute, the millennial generation now eclipses the baby boomer generation. And yet 35% of millennials list themselves as none when asked about religious or spiritual preference. 12% of the American population is considered below the economic poverty line. That's about 39 million people. 35% of 75 million millennials is just over 26 million people. It's almost as much. There are more nuns than either evangelical Christians or Roman Catholics. And this is only millennials. It does not include non-believers in the remaining population. What do we ever hear about this poverty? What happened? And what do we, the church and other religious and spiritual institutions, what do we do wrong? We hear all the time in our Episcopal church about social, environmental, and economic justice, but the real crisis in America is spiritual justice. In other words, people who are lacking in spiritual presence in their lives, which, like social or economic justice, it affects us all. For instance, there was an op-ed piece in the Boston Herald newspaper last November, and it was entitled, "As Religion Wanes, Religious Hatred Grows." And it was written by Michael Graham. Graham states that hate crimes against Jews, according to the Anti-Defamation League, has jumped 57% since last year. It's the highest since 1994 and the biggest increase in 1 year ever recorded. Hate crimes against Muslims has also increased by 17%. The point of Graham's article is that the greatest threat to one's faith isn't from a neighbor of a different faith, but from a society of no faith. And to substantiate his point, one only has to look at the Soviet Union under communism. The Bolshevik socialists wiped out all religion and incarcerated and killed all believers. Religion, the opiate of the people as dictated by Marx, was indoctrinated into the youth. But we hear nothing today about spiritual poverty, spiritual hunger, or spiritual justice. But these need attention because social and economic justice stem from spiritual justice. The answer to economic poverty runs right through spiritual richness. For instance, all religions and all faiths, they all emphasize generosity. Generosity is a virtue. When we are generous, we are giving to others. Few things happen. First of all, generosity is infectious. And secondly, more important, generosity opens the door for us to love others for whom we don't feel love. You see, generosity is the desire for love when love isn't present. It's the desire for joy and sharing. It's a way of endeavoring to make love happen. I'd be willing to say that being generous is striving to love and acting accordingly. Love's the goal, and generosity is the road to it. And if generosity were absolute and universal, we would have no need of justice, and we wouldn't have any poverty. Generosity elevates toward others and toward ourselves as beings freed from the pettiness of the self. Thus, my suggestion is the following. We, the people, need to be allowed to choose to take a substantial portion of our federal and state taxes and donate these monies to our spiritual religious institutions. This money would be withdrawn from one's paycheck prior to being collected by the government. Thus, there would be no conflict between church and state. A secular government cannot resolve issues of spiritual justice, nor should it. Spiritual poverty, spiritual hunger are problems uniquely served by faith communities. By not combating spiritual issues, we are allowing disease to affect millions of people whose lives would improve immensely, because spiritual justice deals with the meaning of life. Spiritual justice offers answers to life's deepest human issues. When hurt, tragedy, grieving, or illness strike, people seek support and they seek counsel from spiritual and faith communities. When that dark spot on your arm turns out to be malignant melanoma, to whom are you going to turn? Greenpeace? The police? The mayor? A nun as an N-O-N-E? Even among family and friends, wouldn't you turn to a person who has faith in God or some answers beyond it's a material world for a material girl? Or heck, you gotta die from something. My experience as a clergy person, people, especially those with no affiliation or involvement in the spiritual community, turn to the holy for support and solace. I get a fair amount of calls from relatives of people requesting a funeral. And they all say the same thing. Mom or Dad, and they weren't very religious, actually not at all. But they wanted to have their funeral in the church. This reminds me of the following popular aphorism. There are no atheists in foxholes. I should put that up on my office wall. My suggestion to use a portion of our federal and state taxes is based upon Matthew 6:21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If given the opportunity for people to choose to donate large sums of money to one's faith community, or for their money to be automatically withdrawn by the government, either or, which would you choose? So I agree with what Jesus said. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The results will be that more people will be involved in a spiritually based faith community. And the more people involved in the faith community, the more they will take on the faith community's values, which is what we all want. Think of what this could do to combat social justice. And it will be done by you directly. We can do incredible things to conquer economic poverty, homelessness, through our spiritual richness. Spiritual poverty and spiritual justice is our call. Out of the richness of our faith tradition, we can give opportunities to those who are hungry and starving for the meaning in their life. Why aren't we thinking of new progressive ways to confront this dilemma? Jesus calls us to feed the hungry and the poor. And when he fed the 5,000, Jesus didn't actually give everyone falafels and hummus. He fed their spiritual hunger. It is spiritual hunger and spiritual poverty that we're called to remedy through our own spiritual richness. And the greatest news in all this is what cost us relatively nothing. It's time to stand up and fight for spiritual justice. My goodness, it's the number one calling of the church. And if we don't do it, then who else will? Join the movement. Hashtag spiritual justice. Hashtag spiritual justice. And finally, I want to make one addition, if I might be so bold, to Luke's version of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And it's this: blessed are those who hunger for spiritual justice, for they will never be sated.